I think the best thing that I can tell people is, and you say this to me all the time, cut yourself some slack. Hey guys, welcome back to Widowhood Podcast. Again, I am Amanda.
I'm Kendra.
And we're kind of going to be picking up where we left off last week. We basically just started at the beginning and talked about both about how our spouses passed away. There were a couple of things that we wanted to maybe give more information on. So we figured we would start with that. But then there was also some other things that happened this week that part of this podcast is transparency. So we're going to talk about how our week has been, and we're going to probably do that moving forward. Because for me, I've had a shitty week, I'll be honest. So I think it's important that we're real and honest, and we're not like out here like, this is what you should do, and we have like all the answers. I'm just getting answers as I go, and I think you're probably the same, correct?
Yeah, I'm still there. Yeah. Some things that were easier in the beginning are not easy now. And even in the past year, I'd say that I think I've had a harder time in the past year than I had in the beginning, because I think in the beginning I was so shocked and stunned about what had happened.
And I feel like you're on autopilot in the beginning. It's like protection, survival mode. And if you're like a mom, I feel like that comes out of you just because like I was, and I'm still in that. I'm still in like that. Like, this is my bubble. Get out. Like, I'm very protective of who I'm around, who's in my home. Now, in the beginning, the first 2 months, it was just a huge fog.
Right.
But so a couple things that people had asked us, like in detail, to hit on was, when your spouse dies, if you have to call 911, which I did. Calling 911, you will get police, fire, and EMS typically. So people said, was that scary? Yeah, of course it's alarming. When my daughter called, I was doing CPR on my husband, but they're working on him that whole time. They do, well, when the police come, they do ask that you, and I kind of felt like it was detaining me. They asked me to stay downstairs and sitting in an area. So I sat there and, listened.
Yeah.
It felt helpless, but that is what they ask you to do. And that's very normal. It's just policy and procedure. So it's not anything to be worried about. Once the coroner got there, as I guess when I realized, where we were at, but not really, still in my head, I don't know. So I honestly want to say it was the coroner came down and said, unfortunately, they kind of walk through what they do. We were unable to resuscitate Mike. He went into cardiac arrest, or he was in cardiac arrest. That's actually what they ruled his death. We were unable to resuscitate him or revive him. So that at that moment, it's like, it's almost like you can see everything, and then it just goes and just comes down.
Right.
So for me, that's how it was, because it was in my home. So that's the point where you have to immediately, within hours, decide where you're putting the body. They did let me go up and see Mike, but I will say, walking into the bedroom, seeing him, I immediately knew, or triple. No, he wasn't. I know what I mean, like a presence that, like, you're walking in and they're like, you can stay as long, they'll be here. They will be here for, like, they won't take them for like an hour. There's a whole thing they have to do. But I think I was up there for 10 minutes, and I was like, you can feel it. At least that was how it was for me. But again, this was in my home. That Mike died in our house. And, at one point I said, I looked around and there were like, I think 38 people between police, fire, And because we know so many people, there were people from other counties that came. I could hear them on the radio saying, "It's my carrots from Virginia," like saying all the details. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's just like surreal. It was like I felt like I was watching a movie, and I was like, "This is not my life." So that was my initial experience, and then I'll talk about how I picked. Like we talked about that last week. Not really needed, but you have hours to make that initial decision. At least that's how it was for me at the house. It might have been different in the hospital setting.
In the hospital, it was similar. They let me go in and see John, and I felt the same way that you described. I saw him there, and his body was there, and he did look sick.
Yeah,
And
looked like
he'd been in the hospital for 40 days, and I hadn't seen him, so I was expecting this, person that I didn't recognize to be there. He looked exactly like he always did.
Yeah.
And they told me I could, have plenty of time to talk to him or pray, whatever I needed to do. And I stood there for a few minutes, and it was like he wasn't there. It was.
And you feel that.
Yeah. It was like the room felt empty. I felt like I was the only person in the room. So I did not stay by his bedside for very long because they were already asking me, where do you want him to go? And this goes back a little further back. My dad passed a year before John, and he did die in the home. And I felt the same way whenever I went in and saw my dad. It was like it was his bedroom, but he was long gone. So it's a very odd feeling to see them there and know that you can't talk to them. They're not there.
Did you leave prior to them taking John out of the room?
Okay.
So that's what I will say was for me. And again, we're doing this, and just want to be real. They let us be with Mike, and it was just Morgan and I, because at this point, Hudson was sleeping. So we went up, and he had just showered and everything. So it literally looked like he was just asleep. Morgan was worried, like, is he going to have to, like, there's nothing. They didn't even, he had an IV, and that's it. Yeah. He looked like he was sleeping, completely normal. So, they did. My father died too about the same time, and I think we shared this. When they came pick up my dad from the house, they were, I guess, really like compassionate. And I'm not saying they weren't compassionate here because one of the firemen hugged me, but a lot of them. But I will say they did carry Mike out of our home in a body bag, and that is the image that sits in my oldest daughter's head. And so I think that do better. That's do better. Like, that was just, I even immediately recognized.
Yeah.
So.
And I think probably from both of us being in healthcare for a long time.
And I've seen,
you've seen good ways that people handle it and bad ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that was a bad way.
I would agree. And like I said, we both had been in traditional healthcare for a long time. And I worked as a first responder, paramedic. I worked to be in an emergency department. So I've seen it all. And I remember that.
Yeah.
So I would say that was one thing. So, I don't know what state you live in or whatever, but that's something to be prepared for. But I do know that most people that I've said that to said, oh, well, yeah, that should
have gone down that way.
And maybe because they knew I was in healthcare and I've seen it, I don't know. I would say that was just an error.
Well, when you say that, I had been in healthcare for 27 years, but it was almost like being there in that hospital room. It was almost like I'd never been in a hospital.
Oh, yeah.
Because you are used to functioning in a different capacity when you're looking after somebody else. Yeah. But when you find yourself on the other side, I just was like, where's an adult? An adult needs to be here. I'm not an adult. Where are the adults?
Yeah.
It was that feeling of being a kid again.
And again, I worked as an emergency responder. So like I've done CPR in front of, but it was like I'm like, right away, like even though you like blank. And that's how I felt. I was like, what do I do now? And I'm like, you've been in homes, you've been in emergency situations, like, but that goes out the window. So I do want to, address that because people had asked me. So
Morgan and your younger daughter, did they see?
Morgan did.
Okay.
Morgan did. Hudson, by this point, because like they work on him, at the time that we had called, I think it was like 9:30 or 10 o'clock, which is typically when Hudson's going to sleep. So she was winding down. By the time, like I said, it was, the fire and rescue come, then they have to call the police. Then there's like questioning. Then, all of it was hours. It was like 2 a.m. So, but we have the Ring camera, so like I could go back and look at that and see them, because I have one that points at the front door down the stairs. But yeah, I just think that was, and I get it was 2 a.m, but I just think that was in poor taste. So Hudson, absolutely not. The last time Hudson saw Mike, he was like sitting in bed on this texting or playing a game on his phone or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So no.
I know a lot of people have questions about, do you let younger children or your other children see your spouse? And for me, that wasn't even an option. Like I said, John had been in the hospital for 40 days and it was during COVID. So my 4 children hadn't seen him for 40 days. We had FaceTimed, but that was their last image of their dad.
Did you let them see him?
No, he wasn't. At the time, I was the only one allowed to go.
Allowed.
Yeah, I was the only one allowed.
When they took him to the funeral home,
No.
You chose not?
I chose not.
Okay.
And my kids, I asked them, and my kids
That's what I was
did not want to see him that way because they had FaceTimed him and, we had opened Christmas presents over FaceTime while he was in the hospital. And after that, he got to a point where he couldn't FaceTime. He wasn't texting. He didn't have his phone.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a decision I didn't have to make, but I know a lot of people do have to decide, am I going to let my children?
We did. We had to, when they take it, like, like I said, when it was sudden and, you have to make decisions, autopsies and all these things are like really expensive, but you want answers. So for the most part, you want to do that. But prior to doing all those, tests, they did have us come and identify the body. And even now they say that, that was done through text.
Yeah.
Probably not sent me text, but I will say in Myrtle Beach, the coroner here was very nice, very kind. He answered every time I called, he answered. So I don't have any complaints there. I just, there are certain things that I look back and go, that's like an image I don't want, and I have it. But my oldest daughter said, Mom, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. And I said, absolutely not. And she said, for me, I need to see him again. And I'm like, then, okay. So we both went in. And again, hair, fresh gel in his hair. He's got his nice Nike shorts on. He was dressed, like normal. So he still looked, and the first thing Morgan said was, he looks peaceful. And I said, I agree. And you look and I don't ever use this term beautiful, but he just looked he looks beautiful. He just looks
John did.
Sounds funny, but no wrinkles, no bruising. He was dressed in, Nike, nice clothes. He just looked peaceful. I mean, that's the best word. And was it hard? Yes. Did we sob? Yes. But at that point, then you have to pick out, after they do all this, what you're going to do with that, and so that was the first few hours, you have to decide where you're going to, send them. And then the next couple of days, you need to decide what you're doing, whether it be, cremation or burial or, whatever. And also with that, it's what kind of service, the place that we had sent Mike to, the place they did service was you could fit 40, 50 people. I mean, and
that
service we were not for us. Yeah. So, so we had to then figure that out. And the benefit, I will say, of being cremated over burial is you have a little bit more time if you want to plan something different. Like I said, luckily I have really good friends. They stepped in and were like, we'll help you. My friend Brandon, was there immediately, like walking me through stuff. So I had friends that came. Sarah, my friends, I think I brought them up last week. Sarah Roberto kind of did stuff so I could function. Obviously, you. But like those, if you do a cremation, at least for us, I had more time to make the decision. I had a couple of weeks to plan rather than like 2 days.
I think a thing that caught me off guard, I got called from the funeral home to come pick up the death certificate and to finish signing some paperwork. And I had my mother and my youngest daughter with me. And I thought I was just going there to sign paperwork. And when I got there, I signed paperwork and they gave me John's ashes.
Yeah.
And I was not anticipating that.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm thinking, I've got my 11-year-old in the car here. How am I going to get these ashes out to the car without her seeing that? Because I tried to let them know what was happening next. I tried to keep my kids aware of this is what's going to happen next. And I hadn't said, oh, we're going to pick up Dad.
And you also want to soften that. That's a hard landing.
Right.
Like you don't want to just,
yeah,
hey, here we go. Yeah, no, that's something you want to.
That was a kind of a shock for me.
So what did you do?
I
took the bag out to the,
carried him out to the car.
Mm-hmm.
And I was driving.
Yeah.
And I
don't think I drove for 2
weeks. I put the urn beside me. She was in the back seat. And I just looked at my mom and I was like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
You know.
You still drove? Yeah, no. Yeah. I don't think I could have driven the first couple of weeks. I wasn't really like sleeping, and because it was for us, it was like, and I remember you said too, like I was just like,
well, you said that, and last week, and I thought about that because for me it was a little different. I think from the time, because John had been sick for 40 days, I wasn't sleeping well that whole time that he was in the hospital, and I was exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever he actually passed, I remember falling asleep and not even knowing where I was. I was so exhausted. And I think my mind was going all the time, and it was finally like my body said, you're done for today.
Yeah.
So I was thankful for that, because it's even harder to make decisions whenever you haven't slept.
Yeah, I feel like that. Yeah. And I still feel like I'm kind of in that. I think like the first 3 months, every night I woke up at like 2 a.m, like a panic, like like
heart racing.
Yeah. But yeah, I do sleep a little bit, better, but yeah, that's something you don't really get. I don't know when that goes away. I don't know. Yeah.
I think it's different for different people. I know one lady messaged me and said, how long does this grief last? How long does this last?
Yeah.
And I think it will be a part of my life forever. Mm-hmm. I think it will be different every day, or it evolves over time. Like I said earlier, the first year, I don't think I got an opportunity to grieve. I don't feel like that.
Yeah, I feel like every day it's a new challenge.
There was so much to do, and John had a business, and I immediately tried to figure out where he was in his business, and people were texting me, what's my next step on this project, and I had no idea. So those things sort of took my time, my thoughts. And then once everything sort of settled and I felt like I had a better handle on the business and our family's routine, that's when it felt like it got hard for me. So I think that's when I realized, oh, this did happen to me. It felt like it happened to somebody else at first.
Still sometimes feel like that. Yeah.
And then like later, maybe the next year, my son had to go to prom, and I didn't know how to tie his tie. And I thought, shit,
Yeah.
this happened to us.
Yeah.
You know, this is not somebody else's family that you feel sorry for. This is you.
And that's crazy because like I said, I remember John and the thing is, you don't know what to do for somebody, so that's why we were talking about like, oh, yeah, but I didn't know what to do for you. Like I knew when I was like, hey, I'm thinking of you, and you're like, okay, like I knew you when I'm like, how are you today? I knew you weren't okay. And people say, how are you doing? Like shitty. I'm doing shitty pretty much.
Yeah.
6 out of 7 days. Like I might have a good day, and I can fake it really well, but most days, like it's shitty.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of shit you have to do. I'm not prepared for. I don't know how to do it, and I'm doing it.
Right.
And the thing that people always say is, you're too strong. And and some people probably love that. I hate it because it's like, no, I'm not.
No,
No, I'm not. I am holding it together by the smallest thread because I freaking have to. If I wasn't here, no, I'm not.
Right.
And the first couple weeks of getting through all of that is tough. The service, planning that, and trying to do right by your spouse, or do what they would want. And we even had planned to do something in Ohio. I don't know if we talked about this, so we both have different states that we lived in part of our lives. But where we are now, I couldn't do that day. The day of his service was beautiful, but so emotionally draining on me that people ask me, and I just had some people from Ohio message me, when are you doing the service here? Did we miss it? We want to be part of it. And I said, you didn't. I haven't done anything, and I'm probably not. If you guys would like to do it dinner with from his union hall and guys he worked with, I will send stuff. I can send photos. I can send his old whatever. But my kids and I can't go. We can't do that.
Right.
We can't. I don't know how you feel, but I can't. And I feel bad because I have family up in Ohio, and like my brother came down, and he was really helpful, to like come into what needs done, like as a guy, like, and even off, paying for things and things like that. But I can't do it again. Right. It's not about the money even, but I can't do it. So I don't know how you feel even now,
I mean, our situation was different because people weren't having services, and most of the advice I got was to post in the obituary, we'll have a service at a later date when
we did.
COVID restrictions allow. And so I didn't have to make a lot of decisions as far as the service. And by the time that people did go out in public and people did go to church again, my children and I decided we weren't going to do that. And, people can fault you for that, but what I said last week is, this is you. Mm-hmm. This is not somebody else. And I had to choose what was best for my kids and me. And my kids were doing well. We were all in counseling, and that was all. That was my concern. My concern was my house, my kids.
Yeah. So I totally agree. And then that's really why we're not doing it either. It's just too much. It's too much to go through that again. But again, and my therapist has said to me, people can celebrate Mike without you. You don't need me there. You want to celebrate Mike at a dinner, or we used to always, we went to the same gym for years, and we'd go to this one place to eat Falcones, still love it. I was like, if I was going to do something, I'd probably do it there or our home church. Mm-hmm. And both offered, hey, Amanda, we'll do whatever you want. It's just like, I don't go to Ohio that often, and I just can't. I don't really know how to say it. I just physically can't. And there's so many other things like you have to do someone said this the other day, as a single parent, which you are. And I hate that. I don't like that term because I was when I was young, but I'm like, and so it's shocking to me, but I am. So there's so many things that you have to do. And again, my husband worked from home, and when I look back, he was like dad of the year because he always did stuff with Hudson, like every day. They rode scooter. I mean, they had matching scooters, like, nothing like a 50-year-old man on a scooter.
Yeah, John was able to work from home the last few years too. So I was very used to having another adult in the house that could take the kids to lessons or help them with some homework or take them to the dentist. Or, you know, and then all of a sudden I have 4 that I'm by myself. And my oldest daughter fell and had to have knee surgery a month after he passed. And that was 6 months of physical therapy. And it was just like nonstop. And that's why I think it took me longer to get to the part where I was devastated because I had so much in the beginning. There was no time.
Yeah. And I do feel like that is probably, I don't know if I want to say what's saving me, but it's probably what, like every day I still have a huge to-do list and I just check stuff off, and some of it goes great and some of it goes shitty and it doesn't work out in our favor, and so, you know, some of it stuff, you know, you just got to do. So I'm still in that where like today I have to, and on top of that, you know, I have to work, you know, and it's like Hudson's out of school and now school starts, and these are all things like Mike enjoy doing with her, where, you know, I don't love shopping. I don't love, you know, I have going to Target to buy school supplies. Like, no, but liked it, love that kind of stuff. So you're doing all of that. Those are like you said, the little things that you're, you know, picking up a pack of pencils at Target and I got tears running down my face. Like, this is stupid. But yeah, so that's that, you know, that's kind of where everybody, like, again, grief is, you know, there's, I think what we say, 5 stages of it. I don't even know. But
I think
it's different for everybody.
It went in order of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And they don't go in order.
I mean, I say, where are you at? Because I know where I'm at.
I don't think I think I wasn't in denial because John was sick for 40 days.
Yeah.
So, but I can easily see how if death happens unexpectedly, then you are in denial. And then we were talking about this week, I think we're both in anger.
Yeah.
And I'm 3.5 years out.
Yeah.
And you're 4 months. So what made you angry this week?
Well, I mean, like, we always go big for the kid's birthday. I mean, and it was Hudson's birthday, and like, it's just like, and I don't want to even cry getting into it, but it's like just everything that goes in with the kid's birthday. Like, I'm the mom. I'll go get gifts and I'll wrap them. But as we used to do, like the big water slide, that's you, dude. You got to do that. You got to get the tarps out. You got to help me decorate the house. Like, everything. You've got to help me at 1 a.m. when she goes to sleep, decorate with balloons and blow. And it's all on you. And I want to carry on those things that Mike did for her, but I can't replace him. So I'm teetering between, like, do I try and like just kill myself, bust my ass trying to do all these things that he did? Or I'm at the place where I've had to say to her, I can't do that. Even with Morgan, like, he did a lot for her. And I can't do that. I can't replace that. So I got to do me and just do the best I can. But there's things we have to change and do differently and maybe go without, because I can't do it. So for me, it was, you know, school starting, school shopping, Hudson's birthday. And those are big things. So I get that one, but it's just, I just got over the denial. Like, no way this is happening.
And it seems so asinine to have to plan a birthday party. 15 kids to come to a birthday party. And you're standing there thinking, nobody here knows what has just happened, what it's like for me right now. And you're having to have a birthday party.
And be happy and make sure they have treat bags and cake and every kid's dropped off and picked up. And and
it's a horrible realization that life keeps moving forward, even though you feel like yours just ended.
Stuck at that day.
Yeah.
I am.
And you're having to be nice to people and to thank them for a birthday gift.
Yes.
You know.
Even though I'm like, don't bring gifts, she doesn't need anything. But yeah. And this is the first year we didn't do it at our house, so that was helpful, so I could come home and like, but I mean, Mike was also the dad. Like, I think I posted a picture that would climb up that water slide and go
Yeah.
down it 45 times. Where I'm like,
I remember.
I
I was like that
I
big guy
see an
coming down that water
accident.
slide.
Yeah, then I'm like, I'm good. Like, I'm watching. I'm taking care of the house. But so I had. I mean, this year I did. I
So you roller
skated
skated?
and then we did go karts and laser tag, and you know, them damn kills try to kill me. Like, I fell. I was like,
Yeah.
I can't keep up with him.
Yeah.
And even if he got hurt, he would just keep going. He wouldn't
Yeah.
care.
I felt
So-
like that when it was time for Oliver to get his permit.
Yeah.
Because John loved cars and he drove everywhere. I never drove anywhere. And he couldn't wait to teach Oliver to drive.
Yeah, Hudson knows how to drive.
Yeah. And so when I had to start practice driving with Oliver, I just thought that I'm not the best person to
No.
do this, you know. And even the day that we drove to get his license, I pulled out in front of a car because I was so thinking in my head, I'm not the one that's supposed to be doing this.
Yeah.
John should be doing this. And I pulled in front of a car and they totaled our car.
I remember
You know,
that. I remember that. Yeah.
So, you know, but he has his license.
Yeah. So you made it. So like for me, that's a win. Like Hudson had her birthday, and I asked her numerous times, and then we had like her not we didn't have a hurricane, but whatever, they tropical storm, they shut everything down, and I'm like, Mike carried all the heavy ass lawn furniture. I'm not carrying it in. If it blows away, I'll get in it.
Yeah.
Like I literally said, like we bungeed it together and like wished it well.
Yeah. Oliver said, "Do we have flashlights?" No, it's like I'm not. But John had a set of
Yes.
flashlights. There was one for everybody's room.
Yeah.
I don't know where they are now. You know,
Yeah, I got these like lantern things. Yeah, I know where one of them is. And that's what Hudson was asking me. And it's like, what do we have sandbags? I'm like, I don't know. Do we need, like, I don't think to myself, what do you do with those? And then I realized like my neighbors put them around, but I don't do that. Like, that's not what, I don't even know where to start. I literally was like, I'll take the flag down. I'm going to move the things I can move into the garage. Otherwise, like, that's all I can do is what it is.
Yeah.
So and for me, like this weekend, like I was like, damn it, Mike. Like you screwed I've said this 100 times, like you totally screwed me over on this one.
Yeah. I think that's when the anger comes out for me too, is when I feel like I can't beat John. I can't do something that he was able to do. And
I'm athletic and I'm strong and I'm all of those things. I think you are too. And I'm capable. It's just like, I don't want to roller skate for an hour. Like, I would rather take pictures and make sure the cake looks cute and make sure that everybody's got a street bag. I don't want to ride go-karts when it's 95 degrees in Marie. Like, I don't want to do that. But I did it. And, you know, like I said, but it's just like, those are things like that we like, you know, we had a good division of responsibilities.
Right. I remember
and that is totally screwed up right now.
I remember thinking when it was Ruby's 16th birthday, we had all these teenagers in the house, and John was great with high school kids. And so he was funny, and he would like be the life of the party.
That's Mike.
And I was standing in the kitchen and like, have I got enough pizza?
Yes.
You know,
that's I'm the planner.
And I was trying not to cry during it, and then everybody leaves, and my older son came up. He said, "It was a good party, Mom. You did good."
Love it.
You know, and so you feel like I'm not meeting everybody's expectations, but you do the best you can.
Yeah, that's a good, because I feel like I'm not meeting the expectations.
But you could see her face in all your pictures. She had a great time.
Yeah.
She had a great day.
And her, like their needs. Like, when Morgan's like, this, my car is making this noise. I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like, I'm like, take it back where you got, like, I don't even know what to say. Like, Mike would be like, well, is it this? Or, you know, and Mike fixed everything. Like, he just was the fixer. And so I'm like, I don't want to keep like replacing stuff, but when a printer stops working, I don't know what to do with it. Like, the one guy was like, what kind of ink does it take? And I was like, I have no idea. Does it take ink? You have to buy it? Like, he was like, yeah. So I just, that's what, if my car was out of gas, my same thing. I never put gas in my car. I never drove anywhere. If when you and I would go out, Mike would always drive me.
Right.
Not because I would drink too much or, he would just be like,
Driving.
yeah, I don't like driving.
Yeah.
So he would drive me anywhere, and the girls. So none of us, and I hate driving. Hate it.
Yeah, I do too. And that's one thing that John, he always drove everywhere. And last year I actually drove to Florida by myself. It was the first time I'd ever driven anywhere that far by myself.
Yeah.
And I was anxious about it. I thought, what would John do to get ready for this trip? And I took my car to the shop and they serviced it. They said it looks good. There's nothing wrong with it. They rotated the tires. They put new oil in it. And I just took off. And
good for you.
When I got back, I was so proud of myself. But I remember leaving thinking, I'm mad.
Yeah, that's where I was at. Like all weekend, I had to keep like stopping and saying, "Smile, take a deep breath." And Hudson and Morgan both had little incidents, and they both were angry last night, and they both were like Mike this, and they were angry. And normally, I would jump right on that boat and be like, "Yes, I'm pissed too." And I said, "Guys, take a deep breath." Mm-hmm. Oh well. Like, it's not life or death. This is not going to change the world or our life's trajectory. It's not a big deal. Take a deep breath. Go get a snack, read a book, whatever. And that's not me. I'm normally like, I'm so controlling and high-strung.
I think if anything, it's helped me learn this is not a hill that I'm going to die on. This is not the end of the world. Like I told you yesterday, John paid all of our bills. He always paid them. I mean, we both made money. We had a joint account. Yes. He paid the bills. I've been paying bills for 3 years now, but somehow I overlooked paying our water bill, and my daughter's in the shower and the water cuts off. And she's like, "Mom, what's wrong with the water?"
And you're like, "Oh, shit."
So I call and she was like, "Oh, we just cut it off because we didn't get payment last month."
Yeah.
It's like, man. So I paid it and it got cut back on, and my teenager kind of huffed about it, and I was like, "It's all right. Get back in the shower. It's on."
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's some of that stuff I've just had to learn to let go, because you're human. You're not perfect. You have other things going on in your mind, and you overlook stuff.
Yeah.
You just forget.
Yeah. I mean, thank God I've gotten, and again, I have my oldest is an adult, so I have, she's helped me, but most of our stuff was on like auto draft, so I just had to make sure, I've got to make sure this, there's constantly money in the account.
Yeah.
That if we need to, some bills are big, like our electric bill, and things like that, so I have to just make constantly. Luckily I put them all like on my calendar now, but no, for sure. I'm just like waiting for like, the only thing Mike, we had a storage unit and he had paid it up for like so many months, and I got the phone call like, "Hey," and I was like, "Oh no, that's all of our like stuff. I definitely want it." Yeah. But that's another damn thing I got to pay. And I don't, and then even going to that storage unit was tough because.
And I had to do that.
Yeah. Mike's was so organized with stuff like that our storage unit looks like a game of Tetris. Everything is just, it's like Christmas, Halloween, and it's like how he has it stacked. I'm like, so, and it's full of tools. Mm-hmm. So it's like, what do you do with all those things? Right. So, and someone else asked about clothing, about their clothes and their personal stuff. I'm not gonna. I've given some of his stuff away like that I knew that people would want, or if someone had a need that I saw that I was like, "Oh, here, Mike has," we both like shoes. We have lots of shoes, but his closet's still full. Like I'm not there. I don't really know what to do with it yet. I'm sure, at some point
you decide.
Yeah,
you'll decide when you're. It doesn't have to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be next year. That's why it's different for everybody. I just had a situation happen where there was a family that had a house fire, and the dad had, of course, they'd lost all their clothes. So a lot of John's clothes went to him. And I felt good about,
Yeah.
being able to do that, but I didn't do it immediately. I did it on a day that I felt stronger.
Yeah.
Because some days you wake up and my therapist told me to have a list of what you need to get done every day and try to do the top 3 because I'd have a whole page.
Yeah.
He said, at least try to do the top 3. So if I woke up and that was my plan to do these things, if I felt off, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I'd skip to another task. And so, the days that I had to decide, am I keeping this or do we need this? I did it on the days that I felt clear, like I could actually concentrate.
Because it's like that heaviness sometimes that's on you, and you're just like, I know that's gonna trigger something. So yeah, I still have all of Mike's, clothes and the jewelry. I mean, I'm more a chain and a watch, but yeah, the majority of it. I mean, like I've given to like my cousin or like my brother if he wanted something, you know what I mean? But I don't know. So I'm not there yet. So someone did ask, when do you do that? I don't know. I would say, like you said, when on a day you feel like you can do it.
Yeah.
And Mike still has drawers full of clothes. I'm wearing some of his like shirts and socks, but yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not there yet. Yeah.
My kids now sleep in his t-shirts.
Same.
And it's been almost 4 years.
I love those t-shirts, and I'm like, these are some nice t-shirts. Yes, I agree. So, those are kind of some things that people had asked prior to, because we haven't. I think the first one we'll post podcast is getting ready to post. So we get questions on TikTok and Facebook. We do have both TikTok and Facebook that you guys can ask questions on. But those were the big ones. But I think the best thing that I can tell people is, and you say this to me all the time, cut yourself some slack. You're like, and for me to be able to listen to that and then say it to someone else, like yesterday was the first time since my dad that I've been able to say, take a deep breath, because every day I feel like my shoulders are up and I'm so anxious and like I'm ready to fight. Like you're in fight or flight mode, and I'm still in that. And it's a fight every single day. And I have my little bubble of people that I talk to, and like everybody else, F off. Like, I mean, I know that sounds horrible, but that's it.
I don't think that sounds horrible. I think it's you're preserving what's the most important to you. And I can look back now and say that the first year when I would take my kids to school, I didn't speak to other people. And I had my windows in my truck were tinted, and I'd sit in my truck and I did not try to talk to the other moms. And at this point, looking back, I wish I had, but I wasn't able to. I was doing good to have my kids at school and getting them to places they needed to be. I wasn't prepared to carry on a conversation with anybody because I didn't think anybody in the world was like me. I thought nobody even knows what this is like. I don't have to speak to these people. And now it's like I could have gotten a lot of help from them probably, but I just didn't have it in me at the time to make conversation. So
looking back, other than obviously you just said that, is there something you would change or do differently or say differently now at this point than you would have at that point? Because I know where I'm at, like, for me, I was too open with people. And I don't want to say open, but I just let anybody come into my house and I think looking back, you need to protect your energy and your children and your own peace, happiness, well-being. And if people don't like it or are offended or get their feelings hurt, that's not your problem. Like, that's their problem. So for me in the beginning, I was like, oh, sure, you can stop over. Oh, sure, you can. I mean, like.
No, I was pretty good about telling people we're not going to be home or now's not a good time. And I'm not sorry for that.
Good. No, and that's again, that's my thing that I wish I would have done different. Wish I would have said no.
Yeah.
You can drop something off, thank you, but no.
Right.
Or I'm not going to have this conversation, or we're not going to go to that, or just no thank you even would have been. But my therapist always says when people talk to you, or you're doing something, look at what the person's intent is, because some people it is curiosity, it is, negative, but some people their intent is just I don't know. And like some of the questions that are I think that are asked, I go over with my daughter and she's like, "Can't believe someone asked you that," and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't see their intent being, negative or nasty. I see it as I don't know. And again, I was literally like, I don't know how to do this. So those first couple weeks, that's where I was at. I didn't know. Well, I didn't even know what to do and how to do it. And, when people come up to you and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry," my youngest would say, "Oh, that's okay. My dad died." And it's like,
Yeah, it is. It's you think
it's like,
about
what do you say?
what do you say to people, and what are they supposed to say to you? There's
Yeah.
no words that are going to make the situation better. And one of the things that just made me so angry was when people would say, "God needed John more."
Oh, hate that one.
And I was like, no, he didn't.
No,
I'm pretty sure his wife and his 4 kids, God
Yeah.
doesn't need us. God doesn't need us. We need God.
Yes.
And I was like, I would just say, well, thanks for saying that.
Yeah, see, I see it.
He's,
Nice.
it's hard. And I do think that we'll maybe talk to a therapist at some point.
Yeah,
We
we
want to have people come on that can say, what's a good response to somebody that says something completely off the wall.
Yeah.
I know, with COVID, there was a lot of talk about ivermectin was, a treatment of choice, but it wasn't approved for the FDA. And a lady stopped me at my kid's school and said, if you'd have got John ivermectin, he would have died.
Or transferred him. I like that.
Transferred. If you had transferred,
yes.
I got a lot of messages.
Why didn't you
transfer him? I was a nurse. I've been a nurse for 30 years. It was my goal to get him transferred. He was never stable enough to be transferred. Yeah. And people didn't know enough from our day-to-day what was going on. I asked countless times, can he be transferred?
Yeah.
I asked about ivermectin. I was on the phone with people in Washington about what medications he could have if he had a breathing treatment. There was a time they wouldn't let him have breathing treatments because they thought COVID it would be released out into the air for other people.
Yeah.
So I stayed on the phone every day trying to figure out, it's hard to look after somebody if you can't be by their bedside.
Yeah.
But when she said to me, if you'd have gotten John ivermectin, he wouldn't have died. And I was like, what a jackass thing to say to somebody,
What was your response?
I said, how would I have gotten it to him if they didn't let me visit him in the hospital?
Yeah, good for you.
I said, that would have been impossible.
Yeah.
And she said, you should have bought it on Amazon. And I said, that's a great idea. However,
how would I have gotten it
I
to him?
didn't get to see him.
Yeah.
For 40 days. So how could I smuggle ivermectin into him? And most of the time, the last 10 days, he was unconscious. So how was he going to take ivermectin? People just say things, and I just kept thinking, why would she have said something like that to me? But I think people don't know what to say.
Yeah.
So my advice is, if you don't know what to say, don't say anything.
Yes, that's what I would say.
Just say, I'm sorry, this sucks.
Yeah.
This whole
I'm sorry for your loss.
sucks.
And typically I'll say thank you. Yes. No,
Yeah.
I agree with that. People have said, well, did they do this?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have them tested for this? And they do it. Did you call that doctor? And did you look at a surgical? I'm like, I've done all that. Like, nope. Right. And it wasn't like, I had days, Mike, we're talking about in the span of 2 days where his foot got really bad. And you don't think, if you know my husband, he was we did call the doctor. We did, all these things. But yeah, I think that's ignorance or uncomfortability. When people they're in your space and they don't know what to say. But oh yeah, I've talked to people yelling at me, hey, I mean, you know, that I don't know or haven't seen. What happened to Mike? Like, oh, I haven't seen you in 25 years, or I don't barely know you. Sit down, let's chat about it. And normally I would say, I'm not doing this. Have a good day. And walk away. And I've done that a couple times, or I've lost my shit on people a couple of times. You know, it depends what day you get me. But if it's a day I'm feeling strong, you'll get the, I'm not doing this, no thank you. If it's a day I'm not, you're going to get the hawk.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I've said things that I wish I had not said
So,
to people in response to something they asked me. I had, like you said, a friend from 30 years ago asked me, how can you work part-time? This was just a few months ago.
yeah.
She asked me, how can you remotely work part-time when you've got 4 kids?
Yeah.
And here's the situation. My kids get John's Social Security. We had rental property that he managed, and and I still work part-time. That was none of her business.
No.
So before I even thought, I said, well, here's what has to happen. Your husband has life insurance and he dies.
Yeah.
That's how I can work
Yeah.
part-time, is your husband has to die.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt bad about it the rest of the day.
No. See,
I was like, because her face just dropped.
Sure.
And I was like, what a thing to ask somebody, how are you making it financially when we're not even friends anymore? So why would you say something like that?
Yeah, asking someone for sure about their finances for sure is not okay. But I understand. I get that. But I honestly, like, and if you know me, you know me. I don't feel bad. Like, in the beginning, because I do. I don't think I'm an empath, but I do think, like, I care about people's feelings, maybe not how they feel about me, but people's feelings. So, but I also have that personality that I just, whenever I say what I say, love it, hate it, it is what it is. So, but yeah, I'm sure I've said things.
And that's the part of giving yourself grace, is realizing, I said this. I said it, it's done.
Yep.
Next day.
Yep.
My therapist told me, he said, people are going to say things to you that bother you. You might say something back. He said, you have to decide how much of your day you're going to allow that to take up your mind space. He said, I would say limited 30 minutes. So I felt bad about saying that to her for 30 minutes. And then I was like, it's over.
No.
On to, keep moving. Because we're so good about giving everybody else grace. And just like us saying, I don't know what their intent is asking.
Yes.
I'm sure they don't have bad intent to ask this. You got to do that for yourself too. It's not my intent to make anybody uncomfortable, but
it's also not my intent to disclose any of our personal finances or health information or any of that with someone I barely know.
Right.
The people that are in my inner circle all know. We're the first when I was like, they're like, are you doing, yes, we're doing autopsy. Yes, we're doing toxicology. Yes, we're having blood work done. Yes, I'm checking to see if he was the infection. Of course, I'm doing all that.
But for somebody who's an acquaintance to ask you,
I barely know you. Why would I tell you any of that?
You don't know anybody that
Yeah.
had information.
And so, yeah, those are things like, and again, I'm still in that phase, which I'm sure this will clear a lot of that up. People that still ask, but, yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm like, you got to say, I only have to, protect my heart and my kid's heart. I'm not really responsible even, for your feelings or anyone else's feelings. I'm not responsible for that. So, and I can only control what I say and how I respond. And my goal since this has been, don't react, respond, which means hear it, think of the intent, and then respond. Now, sometimes it's a reaction.
Yeah.
I will say that.
I think my default was when people would text me or message me questions, I just didn't answer them.
Yeah. No, and that's good.
You're not required to answer. You don't have to answer anybody.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Or the Facebook messages or the emails. Or Here's another thing too that I've noticed being from Ohio. We lived there. We've lived here. I think it's 11 years this year. But people will message me and say, "I heard this about Mike." Now, that brings no value to my life because it's typically something negative, which is and false, by the way. But why would you text me a Facebook or message me and tell me that? So those I quit responding to because your opinion of Mike or me, for that matter, is none of my business.
Right.
And keep it. So that's kind of where I would say about that. So I like the not responding better than saying anything.
I didn't answer people, and you have to be okay with that.
And I think people expect that. And I think, like you said, that first year, you kind of have like a hall pass. Whatever you do and say, people just are like, she's grieving, let it be.
Right.
And it, even though we make a joke that this is not grieving, this is more of a how-to guide. This is all grief.
Yeah.
Like it is. Like I've said things and I've
separate the two.
Cut people out and I've disassociated and I've changed a lot because I am grieving and I don't have a choice. Like I have to make these decisions because I have to protect my own well-being. Because if I'm not good, the rest of it all goes to shit from here. So, but yeah, I'm like I said, I think I hit you said the stages of grief. What are they?
Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance.
So I feel like the beginning was for sure the bargaining, like, Lord, no, this is like you're going back and forth. I know you feel with God, like, the denial was the first 2 months in the bargaining were those. And then I had to be like, okay, this is my reality.
Yeah.
This sucks. But I think you almost go through all of those, even in a day or a week or a month, you're hitting almost all of those.
I mean, there's some days that I wake up and I just have this heavy and I know that I'm depressed, but nothing happened. It's like that's the fourth stage of grief, but I've been through it for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Like when is it? So it doesn't necessarily stop and another one pick up.
Yeah.
They're overlapped.
Yep.
I accept, I don't think I had trouble in the very beginning accepting this was God's will for John. I mean, I understood and I accepted it. But when things happen or I have a bad day, I'm like, I don't want to accept this. This is, so you're back and forth,
Yeah.
I mean, this week I've been angry.
Yeah.
I'm not angry all the time.
No. And I feel like I've been, that's me. I've just been on edge and I'm not sleeping well, but it's anger. And I was sit in that for a little bit.
That's okay.
And so anyway, but we're going to get into more of these. We've given you guys like the first 2 weeks of details. We're still going to talk about, we are going to still do attorneys, life insurance, therapists. We're going to have all these people on, but we're trying to give you guys our kind of background, which is medical, not mental health. But I think this really gives people. I looked up on YouTube and all Spotify and all these. I couldn't find anything on, I can find a whole bunch on grieving, but like this era of my life, this stage of my life, which I should not be in my 40s, by the way. Shouldn't be. But I'm here. So how can I help the next person? Because there's got to be a bigger purpose for our lives than just to eat, sleep, freeze, and die. There's got to be. So I'm hoping this is helpful to someone.